had the NFL draft over the weekend and was not expecting much going into this thing. Really, the only name that appeared to have any type of a chance to get drafted was William Bradley King. And, man, it was a long wait. Did not happen on night one. Knew it was not going to happen on night one because that means you'd have to be a first-round draft pick. And I've been saying kind of for the last few months now that I wasn't really sure about William Bradley King and his draft prospects. And if anything, I think if you go back and listen, I said at one point that I've made the comment, at least at certain points, of him either being a late-round pick or maybe not getting drafted at all. And I think, as of a couple weeks ago on either this show or another show, I'd said, vibes I was getting was like he might not even get drafted. And then we had a guest on whose name I can't remember on the radio show. He's talking about William Bradley King like the middle rounds. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm certainly not following that closely, but if you say so. And I saw maybe a couple of other reports out there, and, like a mock draft had him in the 6th round, and maybe another one had him in like the 7th or whatever, but he ends up going Grayson late. He does go, though, and that's, a great thing to be able to, have happened. A cool moment in your life is to get your name called. So William Bradley King does get that, goes 240 overall, and he is now a member of the Washington football team. So a long wait for him, day 3, last round of picks basically. So was running out of time and did get his name called. Your thoughts on William Bradley King, the wait and the fit in Washington with the football team?
Yeah, I was getting a little nervous there at the end of the draft. I really thought he was going to go earlier, and the guy who sold me on it was Jim Nagy, who was on y'all's show. I was listening to his interview, and I was just thinking, man, this guy thinks he's going to be a 3rd or 4th round pick, and he doesn't go till the 7th round, so it makes you wonder what exactly was the holdup, what was causing teams to have a whole lot of hesitancy on drafting him. I will say, though, he doesn't have a clearly defined position. I wouldn't say at the next level. He's going to have to turn into just a dominant pass rusher, much like a Von Miller type. He is not Von Miller, let me clarify, but he's going to have to turn into that type of player if he wants to stick in the NFL. He's going to a good situation, though, a really good defense, which, they have a bunch of pass rushers as well. So he might have a hard time finding playing time, or they might be able to utilize him in special packages as well. So I think he could be a little bit of a sneaky steal, a guy who actually lasts in the league for a little bit. And maybe I'm listening to Jim Nagy too much. He is a guy who I kind of respect his opinions quite a bit usually, and he felt like William Bradley King had a pretty high ceiling, 18 sacks in his career, 7 forced fumbles, 28.5 tackles for loss. The thing with him, his motor does run cool at times, so he's going to have to get that fixed. But overall, hey, he's drafted. He's going to the league. Really excited for him. I'm going to be following him. I'm going to be watching, hoping that he does really well with the Washington football team. And, hey, another Baylor player drafted. So got to be happy with that, even though there wasn't much excitement this year. Hopefully there's more this next year and in future years, as Baylor really needs to do a better job in the NFL draft.
Yeah, I mean, they've started to get numbers. I know at one point, post-Bryles, there was, I don't know, like one point in time, there was like 8, 9 guys in the NFL, and maybe I'm off a little bit, but what was there was not very memorable. I mean, now you look up and you've got 20 guys in the NFL. So that's really ballooned, and a lot of those are still Bryles guys. Several of them are Rule guys that just in the last couple of years gotten into the league. Now you've got your first Aranda guy with William Bradley King. So, yeah, I think there's, at last count, and this will go down because there's not many candidates to join the party right now until next year's draft, and there's a lot of guys who are, like, hanging on rosters that, could be cut when the roster starts to trim down again. I'm just thinking of, like, really the majority of the guys are kind of not sure things in the NFL. So we'll have to see how that number fluctuates and whatnot. But shoot, man, like I said, there was a time not that long ago when they had like 10, 11 guys, and now they've got 20. And, if Aranda, can get the most out of these guys, you should have a handful joining you next year. I mean, at least. I mean, that should be one of the biggest Baylor draft classes potentially in a long time. And it's not going to be Bama with like 13 dudes or nothing, but it could be a handful, could be 5 or 6, maybe even more off of next year's team if they all, can kind of reach a high enough level and healthy, can be blessed health-wise and everything just kind of goes their way. You could have 6, 7 guys maybe next year in the NFL draft. So, it was good to see William Bradley King get his name called. If they start like a streak or whatever, then, able to avoid getting that snapped. Elsewhere, Jake Burton also in the NFL, maybe the most non-Baylor guy ever, because just like even when he was drafted, nobody really even seemed to want to claim it or not drafted, but was signed, whatever. Like he was on the Baylor football team, but it doesn't even really feel like it. And he was here for the same amount of time as William Bradley King. I don't know why it's all that different, but yes, he is also gone on to the next level as well. So
yeah, he's with the Giants.
New York Giants. Sorry. He's with the Giants, but there's 2, and wasn't really expecting much outside of that. But William Bradley King, I mean, he's not ideal size, not ideal position anywhere, not real fast. I mean, that all adds up. And then, really didn't play his main position last year or really have that great of a year. I mean, you lead the team in sacks with 3.5. But, that was also a defense that was really stinking good. He might have got lost in the shuffle a little bit at times as well. So, best of luck to him. Hopefully he can stick around, but it's not going to be easy on that Washington defense, that's for sure.
No, definitely not. Not easy to find playing time, but I do think that there are ways that he could contribute. But in the NFL, he's going to have to find a way to make an impact even when he's not on the field, whether it's on special teams or just different areas where he can try to impact the game. I do think that we saw flashes of what he could be in the college game, and you saw it when he was at Arkansas State. He really had a really nice year before he came to Baylor. Was solid for Baylor, but again, it just wasn't consistent enough to really get the looks that he needed to be drafted any higher than he went. So this is what ends up happening, but he is in the league, and like you said, maybe that'll start a run for Dave Aranda and company, and I do think next year's class, Baylor could have a few draft picks, which would be nice to see.
I mean, shoot, they better. Tyquan Thornton, Terrell Bernard, Treston Ebner,
Jalen Petrie, Raleigh Tejada. Yeah.
I think Petrie and Tejada will be interesting to,
size-wise.
Yeah, but
they got to run well.
Right. Yeah. I mean, all the usual, I mean, size, speed, all the same things that matter every year will matter for them too. But, I mean, they could have chances. Kalen Barnes, I mean, like I said, there could be a handful. There could be up to 7 because there's not I'm trying to think if there's anybody else that maybe not hitting on. Like R.J. Sneed. Did I say his name?
No, but guys get their year back. So that's the other kind of who does end up leaving is the other, I guess, tricky part about it.
Right.